one is no good. Rebounded by Anthony. 2 seconds left. Anthony for the win. Got it! Rolls it! Cole Anthony gives the Magic a victory.
Close Up Magic.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Close Up Magic. I'm your host, Stephen Cameron, and as always, we got Malik Grady. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Not much, man. I'm glad to be here. Glad to get this thing started up again. Always trying to get better. Always trying to improve the show for our listeners, for the new listeners out there, because somebody tonight is hearing us for the first time. We want to make this a great experience for them as they look for fans like them, fans that look at the Magic and basketball the way they do. And that's what we're here for, Steven.
Yes, sir. Let's just get right into it. You know, we at this podcast, we got a lot of new things coming on, as Malik was hinting about, and ways we're trying to level up, as Coach Mosley says. Today we did our first basketball live stream versus the Charlotte Hornets on the Discord channel, and that was a lot of fun. We had quite a few people in there. I mean, our Patreon group is still pretty small as the program's growing, but it was a lot of fun. We were able to discuss the game and talk about our emotions live and raw and either watch it together. Most of us were watching it on our television and just talking audio through each other, but it was a nice way to connect with each other and just talk about the game. So we plan to do that more often with the Patreon group, and let's just plug the Patreon right now. We got a Patreon page that we've started and a couple ways to subscribe and support the show. Your money that towards that program goes directly back into services and giveaways that'll be happening in the future. So if you want to support the show on a bigger way, go ahead and join the Patreon show. And like Malik's saying, and we're trying to make this the best we can for everyone, and that Patreon support is one of those ways. The other way, let's just get right into all the homework or housekeeping, as I like to call it. This show is sponsored by or presented by 19 Media Group. It's our network that brings us support every week. They give us things like merch. I'm not wearing any of our merchandise today. I'm wearing a hat and a throwback Magic Penny and MJ sweater. But we do have Close Up Magic merch you can get. And then, as always, if you could just leave a review, like, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that sub button. Help us get our subscriptions up. Our next goal is 300 subscribers. We're at 222 right now, 225, somewhere around there. So trying to bump it up. Hit that subscribe button. Man. So Malik, let's get into the team. Let's get into the basketball. It's been I would say a pretty successful week. We are recording this after the Magic lost in a pretty ugly fashion to the Charlotte Hornets. But before that, the Magic had their first winning streak. They won back-to-back games, which is really exciting in my opinion. Just
against two pretty good teams. Too.
Yeah, two really good teams against the Mavs and the Suns. And the Suns game being one of the most complete games that the Magic have played. And I'm sure we'll get into more details about that in general, but how are you doing? Just feeling in general about the basketball team today, and just in the last week since we've talked.
Well, it's funny. I was listening back to our podcast from last week with Mark Schindler, who, again, thanks, Mark, for coming on. We really enjoyed having him.
Yeah, it was a good conversation.
But just trying to do a little more listening to the podcast, kind of self-critique, can improve over time, that kind of thing. And I said last week that it's interesting how just a few wins or a few different things can change the feeling around the team or just the overall view that you have of things. And lo and behold, even with losing Paolo Banchero to an unfortunate ankle injury, the Magic win 2 straight against teams that they were underdogs to, a Dallas and the Phoenix team who both have been in the finals or been near the finals in the last couple of years, have MVP type level players on them, that kind of stuff. And the Magic win both those games. And we'd also talked about specifically Chuma Okeke with Mark. And
we did.
We all kind of chuckled that he's one of the weirdest players that we know, where he does some things on the court that we love, but he also isn't like a super bouncy guy. Even tonight you saw him try to go to the lane, dunk it on someone again, and almost dunk it as he always does, that kind of thing. But in those 2 games without Paolo, Chuma Okeke was the starter. And you saw the Magic have 2 of their better defensive showings of the year. You saw a little more communication out there. That's something that you had mentioned earlier, that Philip Rossman-Reich had mentioned was a problem for the Magic, not having communication, defensively, that kind of thing. It's also helped the team offensively as a ball mover, that kind of thing. So that's kind of what's been on my mind. It's like we win those 2 games, you have a totally different feeling about the team. And why is that? Especially with Paolo Banchero, who's been so great for us early in the year. Why do you win 2 games without him and that kind of thing? That's kind of what's been on my mind, having this kind of mostly up but a little bit down week since we last spoke to our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. We win 2 games without our best player, or who's going to be our best player, and it's like, why is that? And I think there's a couple of things. I think I feel like the Magic are, and we kind of see this from time to time, and this week is like a perfect example of it. Like, we play up to the better opponents, we play down to the lesser of opponents, and we played up to Mavs. Our energy and effort and all we played a 4-quarter game through for both the Mavericks and the Suns. And tonight versus the Hornets, they slept on them a little bit. The energy was not there, communication was not there, sloppy, turnover central, foul central. It was like the last 8 minutes of the games when we actually started like looking like a competent team and whatnot. I remember at one point through like the 3rd quarter, I just looked at the box score and you got all the starters in double-digit negatives in their plus minus, and you got all the secondary unit and the in the positives, and it didn't feel like the Charlotte Hornets were necessarily playing amazing basketball. It just felt like the Magic were playing really bad basketball. And so like outside of tonight though, like I feel like we're learning some things that this team still has to work through, and like playing to your opponent regardless of who they are and what their record are is a problem we have to work through. And I also think, but I've learned that like we can play good basketball. We can play 4 quarters. I mean, you never thought the Suns game was close. It was close. It wasn't like we blew them out, but like we comfortably had the lead, 8 to 10, 12 points almost the entire game. Every now and then they got it a little bit close. They'd go on a little run, but I never felt like the Magic were losing the rope at all. And so it was interesting. It's interesting. I think I've learned that I don't think I've learned. I think it's just continuing to be affirmed. Like, this team needs to get healthy soon. It's bad. Markelle Fultz can't come back soon enough. Some shooters can't. Yeah. Gary Harris can't come back soon enough. Cole can't come back soon enough. Yeah, it's been rough. Since last week, we had Mark Schindler on there on the show, and we were talking about Franz and Chuma. We have some more data on them now. We have, we've seen a couple of games now, 3 games in a row with Chuma Okeke as a starter. And so just like, I was just wondering if you have any new thoughts on those players since our conversation with Mark Schindler last week.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, kind of specifically the one I shoehorned in there, Jalen Suggs. He did have 2 better games against Dallas and Phoenix, and then tonight had a stinker. 1 for 10 from the floor.
It's bad. Fouled out.
He had either was it 6 turnovers or 7. It was just a really tough turnover night for him. And his counterpart, LaMelo Ball, went off. I mean, obviously LaMelo Ball didn't shoot well, but again, he controlled the game. He was that kind of driving force, hitting timely threes, having the back-breaking shots here and there with his touch inside and that kind of thing. And it's possible that maybe the difference between this time the Magic losing to Charlotte and beating Charlotte a few weeks ago is simply we don't have Paolo Banchero, and now they have LaMelo Ball. I mean, that's a pretty, extensive trade, obviously, to have.
Yeah, for sure.
The, motivation of, the Magic kind of embarrassed them in that game. And I want to say it was in Charlotte even. And then now to play them again, there's something to prove. You have a coach who is a former Magic coach, you want to, defend your coach a little bit, that kind of thing. So I think they have a lot of motivation. I think Magic are starting to have a little fatigue of not having Paolo. I think that's kind of wearing on them a little bit. To just have another guy that they need, and that's a real energy guy for them. Once again, that late scratch not out there, and so you have to go out there and try it out there again and try to, eke it out until he comes back. So I think that mattered. Other guy you mentioned, Franz Wagner, once again looking good out there. We still would like to see him hit a few more threes here and there, that kind of stuff. But just overall, Franz is looking good. You know what I'm saying? Like he's getting to the basket at will. What Mark Schilling mentioned about all of his weird finishes and avoiding contact, all that kind of stuff. It's been on full display, to see him do those things. So, yeah, and then like I mentioned before, Chuma Okeke being a guy who's been a good defender. The shot is actually going in more, which is really key with him. Sometimes when he doesn't shoot well, he can be a liability out there because teams can play him in a different way, and he's driving in against traffic and getting blocked, that kind of stuff. So all three of them, for the most part, a thumbs up, except for tonight with Jalen Suggs, where he just really struggled. And when he's bad, he's bad.
Really bad.
I mean, that's only playing under 60 games, but part of it's like, man, you got to find a way to have some consistency, So
I think let's just talk about Suggs for a second. So I have the box score up right now. He had 5 turnovers, 6 personal fouls, 7 assists, and 2 points. He went 1 for 10. No free throw attempts. He had 3. He did have 3 3-point attempts and missed all 3 of them. So it was 1 from 10 from he missed 7 inside the arc and 3 outside the arc.
Yeah.
And so yeah, when he's you watch the last 2 games, you're like, cool, you're good. You're doing all right. I see how and where you can be used. Actually, I think it was during the Mavericks game. I even posted a Jalen Suggs appreciation post on Twitter where I was like, and you can really see it with this guy. He can play off ball, he can play on ball, multi-positional defender, getting better with his decision making on when to attack the basket versus when to pass. And I don't remember everything, but it was something like that. He's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. But then when you see it tonight and you're just like, damn, dude, you really are not meant to be the primary ball handler. You should, the 7 assists, don't let that confuse. He looked like ass when it came to offensive playmaking and just setting things up when the ball was in his hands. It just really goes to show you really do need to have another primary out there that can set it up. I mean, Markelle Fultz is it, because Jalen Suggs to me is that, at best a secondary ball handler.
That's not a bad thing. I mean,
no, and that's not at all. Yeah.
It's just an additive thing, is that because he actually, when another guy's on the court, it not only helps him, he helps that guy because he takes pressure off. He's great attacking closeouts.
Yeah.
He's great on the secondary ball swing. He's great in transition. So it's just that you'd like to have more. I mean, some guys, you just need one guy, like Luka, Harden. They can be the one guy, period. That's not Jalen Suggs right now,
If we hadn't gone through, I think Magic fans and myself would be a little bit more chill about the ups and downs with Jalen Suggs, and even Franz to an extent, because in the group chat, we went off pretty big for a little while there on our frustrations with Franz being on ball so much. And I think if we hadn't tanked the last 2 years, and we weren't told that this year was all about leveling up and winning was a focus and stuff like that. I think the frustrations would be a little bit less, because it's these on-ball reps right now are rough, for some of these guys. However, these on-ball reps are going to pay off a lot when the team gets healthier. Franz being able to make certain decisions on ball, but when he has less on ball reps in general, his usage on balls is going to be significantly lower. Same with Suggs. It's going to be lower when Fultz comes back.
It's a choice.
The on ball reps today are going to help with their decisions when they do have the ball in more situations there. I mean, in my opinion, we see it with RJ Hampton. He was ass in summer league, but he was on ball the entire time. Now when he's on the court, he's making better decisions. And I think a lot of that has to do is because like he worked really hard with on-ball decision making, and like we saw the effects of it in summer league. It was really bad, but now that like when he's on the court and he's like, a multi ball handler in a system with other ball handlers that can make decisions as well, it's like he's fitting a little bit more into his role. And I feel like we'll see the direct effects of that in like 2 or 3 months when this team is healthier and, guys are used to. I'm not saying Fultz will be back in 2 or 3 months. He should be back sooner than that. But like when they're starting to gel a little bit more with the addition of some of these players, like we should see their growth really take a step because of some of these reps. So long-winded way saying it sucks watching some of their struggles now, but I think it's going to pay off in the long run.
Well, let's stay on, since you brought him up, RJ Hampton. You say it's going to pay off in the future for him and everything like that, but the kind of every night there's Magic controversy. You look at the timeline and kind of see whatever Magic Twitter is looking at. Tonight, what Magic Twitter has been talking about is, again, the use of RJ Hampton. Kobe Price asked him a question after the game saying, hey, what's up with RJ? Why aren't you playing more? Is it like he's doing okay? You didn't put him in until the second half when he went to the all-bench unit when the game was out of hand, and he produced, but it seemed like in recent weeks, doesn't matter who's hurt, the brother cannot get on the court in any reasonable amount of time. Even tonight, 10 minutes when Caleb Houston had 15, Ross had 21. Like other guys get dwarfed his minutes no matter what the guy does. He's shooting well over 50% from three, I think, on the year. Tonight he had 10 points in 10 minutes. And, I think it's easy for us to say, oh, yeah, this is going to pay off in the future, these reps, that kind of thing for RJ Hampton, because he'll be able to contribute. But in reality, what will probably happen is guys will get healthy, and we just won't see RJ Hampton. RJ Hampton will be on the bench with a towel cheering on his teammates.
I do just want to say my comment about it'll pay off for them in the future was specific to Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner, where I was saying RJ Hampton's reps of being on ball paid off in the future right now.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So okay. There was a little bit of a twist up there. Like RJ Hampton's going to get squeezed out of the rotation for the Magic. His on-ball reps are going to benefit him today while he's playing, and then next year when he's on a completely different team.
Yeah, because the thing is that you and I disagreed a little bit in that I'm not quite as scandalized and worried about RJ Hampton's option not being picked up and like we're squandering this and the other. But what I do have a frustration with is not taking advantage of him now. I mean, the future will take care of itself. Whether he's here, whether you lose him, you probably lose that kind of thing. But to not play him now, no matter what, even when guys get hurt, like when Suggs went down, when Khaled went down, and I was like, well, gotta play RJ Hampton now. And Coach Posey's like, do I have to? Do I have to, Malik? Because I don't think I have to. In fact, I'm not. Bobo's gonna start. So and it worked. Don't get me wrong, but it's just a wild thing to be like, and this team needs a pop. The offense is, faltering, and this kid, say what you want about him, but he's scoring the basketball. I mean, there's other things he's doing. Maybe he's missing defensive assignments at times. He's 30 pounds less than Kevon Harris and Caleb Houston, so guys kind of throw him around a little bit on both sides of the ball. But one thing the brother can do is score, and the teams, usually the Magic are just struggling with scoring. So it's just an odd thing to see. I mean, because, we're all like speculating, what is it? Is there a problem in the locker room? Is it a personal thing? I myself said, I think that in the summer, when RJ struggled so much in his gift wrap opportunity in summer league, I think that Mosley and his staff were collectively like, hey guys, we're all together on this. We can't trust RJ Hampton, right? Everybody raise their hand. Okay, cool. We can't trust him. Let's do everything we can to not let him play. I think that's how they felt after the summer, right or wrong, and that there's not much the dude can do to get on the court beyond that. So, like I said, it's a weird situation, man.
Yeah, it is weird. I'm throwing up some stats real quick on the thing just so people have some context. RJ Hampton's shooting 55% from 3, 92% from the free throw line, 52% from the field altogether on a pretty good efficiency rating this season. And that's him on 2 attempts per game from 3. He's taking what's the percentage from he's taken a handful of shots from the field, and he's only averaging 11 minutes, and so it's just like I think we both we both agree that he should be playing more. It's weird that coach only brought him in midway through the third and then chose to play Suggs over him when Suggs was having arguably one of his worst games of the year. And it's just like the decision making doesn't make any sense to me. Whether there's multiple reasons why I'm upset with them not picking up the option. One is because it's good depth for the Magic team, right? If they were to keep him for multiple seasons. If not, he now has like whether the trade value is going to be a lot or a little, which is probably going to be a little. We've made it even smaller with not having the option for another team. It's like we could have had maybe just a straight up second round pick from a team, but now it's probably going to be like, well, he's a free agent, so it's going to be top 50 protected. And so it may not ever convey type of thing. Right. So like that's, he wasn't going to get as much anything in return if we traded him this year, but we're really not going to get anything back now, And so I think that's kind of like where it is. Even if RJ Hampton isn't going to grow to be like an awesome starter for this team, not with who we have on the roster and who we're, maybe hoping to draft in the future, or to trade for or whatever, just who we ultimately want there. I just don't see that ceiling for RJ, but I did see him as like a potential good rotation player, for the second unit. And to me, he's proving that right now. And so I think that's why I got annoyed with the option. I just love how like when Kobe Price, shout out for like asking this, because I actually DM'd him and was like, hey dude, you should ask this question. And he didn't see my DM until afterwards, but then he asked the questions anyways. It's like coach just like danced around the question. And it's like, oh, well, we want to have a starter on the court. You telling me you can't figure out a way to get RJ, who's playing well, on the court next to a starter? You can't figure that. And then it's like
Houston and Harris were playing 20 minutes a game.
Yeah. And then the other funny thing was then he was like, well, what about why his minutes have been sporadic all season? And I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was just like a blow off answer. And I was talking with Kobe afterwards and he goes, those answers, as frustrating as they are, I've been asking this, I've asked similar questions a few times, and it just lets me know that he thinks that the Magic know that he's playing well, and they probably should be playing him more, but they're not for some other reason. And so, I'm not going to say like, please don't quote me with that on Kobe, because there's an actual quote there that I'm not quoting. So this is just me like kind of summarizing a longer conversation, but it's like, there's essentially Kobe was saying there's probably reasons why they're dancing around the subject of RJ and why he's not playing more, which is frustrating, super frustrating. Not Kobe's response, but the front office's response and coach's response to Kobe.
Well, and it's funny, dude. I think much like last week where I said even a couple wins here or there can change the narrative drastically, just like that. I think we're at a similar crossroads now that, if Gary Harris comes back Wednesday or Friday, if Marco Fultz is here and there, if Paolo Banchero comes back from his ankle injury, as Magic fans, and of course we win a game, as Magic fans, we're going to be closer to cloud nine just off of those things alone. Like just we're so starved for something positive, like a guy being marked as questionable rather than out. Let's say Sunday, Moritz Wagner is listed as questionable, and maybe he'll play the next day and stuff. It's just Moritz Wagner. I mean, I like him a little more than you do. It's just Moritz Wagner, but the collective sigh of relief and anticipation, and oh, hey, maybe we can do this, that, and the other that we would feel as fans, is really palpable. And
Yeah.
it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad how the ebb and flow goes, just if guys are healthy or if we win a game here or there, that kind of thing. So it's just, I don't know, it's just wild to see how close we are to being happy as a fan base. Like when Markel Fultz comes back, the high off of that is going to sustain us for at least a week or two. I mean, no matter what happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have these players that definitely need to come back. We have players that probably could be back today and are not.
No comment.
We have players that are likely going to be back sometime between Wednesday and the end of the year. And by the end of the year, like this team will be like really good. I mean, we don't have timelines from the team or anything like that, but like,
Make up our own.
all the tiny little details, like with when they're coming back, don't matter. In a month from now, things should look very different for this team, to where when the first guy comes back, whether it's Moritz Wagner or Markel Fultz, which is probably neither of those guys, in my opinion. It's probably Paulo in the next game or so. And Gary Harris hopefully shortly after that.
Any minute, we know that's coming soon.
Well, JI is at least doing contact. I mean, he's at least playing 5-on-5. According to some of the latest articles from Kobe, JI and Gary Harris are the closest ones to returning, because Fultz and Mo Wagner aren't even doing contact yet. Well, I mean, also Paulo not included. I'm expecting Paulo to be back any game now, like probably the next game. He potentially could have played tonight if they really wanted him to. Because he went through a full practice and it didn't sound like there was any issues with it the other day. So
the last gasp of his injury to all of us.
Yeah. It's probably just, whatever. I don't know. I imagine if today really mattered, he could have played. But we're going to have guys back pretty soon, when even if it's just coaches 5-on-5, and playing contact, that means they're going to soon, meaning potentially a couple of games, potentially a few weeks. They should be back relatively soon. We should be getting some good news, and that's going to be so nice. It'll be so nice having like Gary Harris as an option, and probably never have to see Kevon Harris in the rotation again once he's back. At least there should be no excuse. But who knows? This is Coach Mosley, and Coach Mosley's kind of a interesting individual with his lineup and rotation decisions. So, yeah.
Since we're talking about possibly below the belt shots, let's go ahead and do our read. Support for Post-Up Magic is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. A little bit of fuzzy math here. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with an exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code CLOSEUP at manscaped.com. And if my math is correct, and there's no way that it is, that's about 14 million balls. So what's your experience been this week with the Manscaped product, Stephen?
My experience has been, it's been pretty good. I just really like.
Have you gotten in the water yet? Have you used the light? Have you turned the lights out and just
haven't done all of that? But I mean, I still really just enjoy how it feels in my hand. The ability to just like feel confident while using it. Yeah, the trimmer. The Performance Package 4.0, man. The Lawnmower 4.0. The trimmer that's the future of grooming, dare I say.
A lot of things feel good in your hand.
Yeah, no, man, it's been a good product. I haven't used them since last week. I don't have to trim down there every day. But it's been nice. I put them in the the carrying bag that it came in and like kind of like put them away, getting ready to probably use them again in a few days. And it's the carrying case is really nice. I'm just so really impressed with like the quality of the builds of these products. I did use the weed whacker to, again, clean up the nose hair and the ear hair the other day. I did use that the other day, and it's just like, it feels good. Like, I feel like if I drop these things, they're not going to shatter and break on me. The weed whacker is also waterproof, and maybe I'll try that in the shower in a couple of days, and see how that goes. But it's got its proprietary skin safe technology which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate areas. So, oh, dude, I did try the crop preserver ball deodorant. Sorry, I forgot about that. That is nice. You just kind of feel fresh down there, What about you?
Yeah, I've been using that as well. It's like I said, it's good to have a refreshing feel in that area. It's not an area that it usually gives you a pick you up, so to speak. Usually it's bringing you down. And then it's like, oh, this area is just, it's not so fresh. It's not a happy place. But suddenly splash some of that stuff on there.
Feeling fresh.
You're feeling
great.
Fresh. It's lifting you up from the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
Dude.
What does Drake say? From the bottom to the top? From the top.
Now we're here.
I don't know. Yeah, now we're here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. There's something in there about that. You can make your own jingle, jangle, as it were. It is late.
But so with all that, like, let's just listeners of the show, the Manscaped products are good. We've had a couple of you ask us about it on the side in the DMs, and they are good. They're very quality. If you're thinking about buying them, get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code CLOSEUP at manscaped.com. It's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use promo code CLOSEUP. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Gotcha. So I guess we should look forward to what we're looking forward to this next week. We're hoping for some great news with injuries, guys coming back, guys that we very much want to see. I got into it maybe a little too heatedly with a friend of mine in the DM group about how important it was or was not to have Gary Harris back. But I'm counted among those who I think it's going to be a huge thing to have the Gary Harrises of the world rather than the Kevon Harris. I know you've infamously talked about good Mo and bad Mo. Well, to me, this is talking about good Harris and, dare I say, bad Harris. Gary Harris is the good Harris, a young man who's been a NBA Man of the Year finalist, was integral to the the Nuggets getting to the conference finals one year, that kind of thing. Bad Harris is Kevon, a journeyman player who may or may not be anything in the NBA. And we want the good Harris because Terrence Ross has his moments. There's also plenty of moments where he's out there and him trying to create is just like pulling teeth. It's going to be a pull-up three. There's going to be a hesitation dribble, pull up in somebody's face and hope for a foul call. It's coming. Sometimes it works for you. Sometimes the torch is lit. But a lot of times it's ice cold out there. That torch is not lit. You're just waiting. So, looking forward to getting him back. I'm looking forward to getting Moritz Wagner back. Looking forward to Markelle back because, again, the team will feel so much different. And the biggest thing is I won't have to hear the griping and the whining and the frustration of Magic fans who are convinced that it is the rotations and the lineups that is the problem rather than an entire starting 5 or 6 on the bench. Now, I know we differ to the degrees of how much that's true, but we can all agree that getting good players back is definitely going to be better. That's what I'm looking forward to this upcoming week.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think, in my opinion, I think we're probably going to, between now and our next podcast, we're going to have probably one person return.
Okay.
I think it's Paolo. Yeah, I still think, the other guys aren't playing 5-on-5 yet. Gary Harris is with the coaches, but he, to me, when I was reading that article, it was talking about how his knee or his leg can still feel different day to day. And so to me, what I have circled for his potential return time is the following week on November 25th and the 27th, we have 2 home games versus the 76ers. And that's kind of, I think, the window that he comes back. Give him another week to kind of just like really get things settled up and then come back. That's my guesstimation with like the Magic and how slow they are with bringing guys back. But I mean, I would love to be wrong. I'd love to have him back on Wednesday. That'd be sick. But something I'm looking
the same way too. I love to be wrong. Like as I said to you earlier, I know I'm not always right. I don't even care about being right most of the time. That's something we talked about in the past. So yeah.
Okay. Another thing I'm looking forward to this week is I'm looking forward to Chuma Okeke and seeing what he does when he does shift back to that second unit, right?
Yeah.
He's played pretty well with the starters, high energy defensively. He looks a little bit quicker. His shot looks like it's starting to fall. I mean, his shot was starting to fall a little bit in that second unit before he got moved up. Yeah, and I want to see what those guys, Mo Bamba and Okeke, are going to be the ones that get their minutes squeezed the most with Paolo coming back. And so it'll be interesting to see, can you keep that up? And as your role gets reduced, because it can be hard for players to go from playing 20 minutes to 12 and people say, well, it's just play with energy that full 12 minutes. It's not that simple. Yes, play with energy, but there are reasons why some guys look good in 12 minutes in 20 minutes and can't look good in 12 minutes. There's things that most of us probably are not smart enough to understand on basketball training and mental high performance at that level to get. But I'm just excited to see like what they look like going into back to their older roles with lesser minutes.
Yeah, well, because you can start to see the inklings of what could be or should be a pretty good bench once guys get better, once get healthy, but also even with the current guys. If Mo Bamba plays as well as we expected him to play this year, I thought he would be, one of the better backup big men in the league. If Chuma Okeke kind of continues to make his progress towards a poor man's Grant Williams, then all of a sudden, your bench isn't just trash. You're not just putting guys out there and you're just like covering your face, Because there was a time when that was the case with Okeke and Bamba early in the year. We're just like, oh my God, these guys, not only are they not giving us anything, they're actively taking things off the table, like making us worse. We got to get the starters back out there, play them 35 minutes, play them 40 minutes, because these guys can't give us a damn thing, So it's nice to see them having their moments, and like I said, you want it to continue when they go back to the bench. If at some point Bobo goes back to the bench as guys get healthy, that's another debate that we all have had, because Bobo's been productive, but he also has his moments where he's lost defensively, or there's a stat I think our friend Ray Shard posted of the top field goal percentages when a certain defender is nearest to them, and Bobo, guys are shooting 70% when he's the closest defender. That's not great. 70% is, if you shot 70% for the year, you're a Hall of Famer. Okay,
for the longest guy on the team, in the NBA.
Some other big names on that list were guys like Cade Cunningham, a little surprisingly, Nikola Vucevic, maybe not so surprisingly. So just the other weird stat is that I think half the shots taken in Bobo's vicinity, he's blocked half of those shots.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Either blocking the shot or it's going straight through the freaking basket.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, man. Let's just talk about Bull for a second. So, do you think he should go to the second unit when this team gets healthier?
I don't think there should be any problem with that. I think he should be a nice candidate for a sixth man, because he's already so positionless that you should be able to take out whoever you want, whoever's fatigued, or strategically say, okay, let's give Paolo a blow, let's give Franz a blow, let's give WCJ a blow. And you can substitute him in for any of those guys and just adjust your lineups, whether you're going a little smaller or a little bigger, because he's not really a 5'4" or a 3. He's kind of just, he's a bowl. He's a bowl, So ideally, if he can give you some of that production and you can still get him in that 25-minute range off the bench, it's going to take some some work to cobble that many minutes together for him off the bench. But he's a guy. He's a game changer. I mean, because he's a guy who, rebounds, brings the ball up the court, spaces the floor. You got to look around for him inside, so he's not blocking your shot. So if that's a guy you're bringing off the bench as just a chaos agent, that's a nice thing, especially if the starters are guys like Suggs and Fultz creating havoc with their wingspan up top. And of course, what's becoming a really, a front court we're all fond of with Franz, Paolo, and WCJ. So I think that could be great off the bench. You don't necessarily want to put him on the bench just because they're playing so well, but it's not a punishment. It's more just trying to use him and what the team has a little better as guys get healthy and have more of a winning formula. Because right now we're fun, but we're not necessarily a winning team. Although for a while, I think we were 5-5 in our last 10. So that was nice to see.
I think, I agree with you. I think it makes a lot of sense when this team gets healthier to move him to the bench. And that's not just me, like, with my anti-Bull propaganda. It's more like just what makes sense for this team and the starting unit. I think I'll say right now, with how injured the team is and how Bull played at the start of the year, like he deserved to be the starter. But do I want that long-term? No, I think he's more of like you throw him. Maybe he should be in the rotation. But as far as like being a starter or playing with the starters, I feel like that's more of like a switch it up kind of thing. Kind of, let's throw a different look in there to see, to like just shake things up. But it's like people are starting to figure him out defensively. Obviously, we know that now. We know that we'd prefer to see him running the ball in transition and not so much like running an offense where tonight where he was actually trying to like run dribble handoffs. He was like turning it over every 5 seconds. He had 6 turnovers tonight and at least 2, potentially 3 or 4 of those came directly in a dribble handoff situation and a failed handoff. It was pretty bad. And so it's like, I think you want,
if he's part of a productive bench, love and luck because our bench is
and the other reason why I want him to shift back is also because I want Franz to go back to the 3 and guarding more wings and less guards. It's nice that he can guard 1 through 4. I'd prefer him guarding 2 through 4 and like potentially grabbing a switch onto a 1 and not necessarily like I gotta guard all these guys because we don't have that lineup. And so that's probably the bigger aspect of why I think it makes sense to shift Bull to the bench is so I can shift Franz back to the 3 and get a second guard in there next to Suggs, just to help defensively there.
Well, and that's what we were talking with Mark last week as well. That's like, what are the best lineups? What are the best styles of play to maximize Franz Wagner? To maximize some of these players you have, and some of the stuff is working nicely offensively, but you'd like to have some different tweaks and different options rather than being forced to have Franz have the ball so much, being forced to play even some more zones and some more gimmicky defenses, that kind of thing. And those times are coming when we're not forced into a certain style of play. But right now it's a little bit tough going. I know a lot of people are scared of the T word, scared that the Magic are going to be tanking. I don't think we're tanking. I just think we're just not that great, and we're gonna lose some games here and there. It's going to mean that we're going to get a great draft pick probably, but that's not the worst thing. And it doesn't mean that the front office and the team and the coach are sabotaging us. It's just the East is really good. We're playing good teams, and there's no pushovers anymore. Like even when you play a Houston or an OKC, they got some guys that can, smoke you a little bit. And Jalen Green at any given moment can just pull up from 3 and just knock down a 30-footer. That kind of type of BS. You know what I'm saying? So,
I don't think the Magic are tanking. I just don't know if they're like actively trying to win at all cost. Coach is experimenting with lineups. As you can tell with his RJ Hampton answers, it's almost like he's not experimenting as he was in the beginning of the season, but he's still experimenting. Like, when this team gets healthier, that they think the experiments are going to continue to happen as they figure out, like you said, who looks best next to Paolo and Franz. I I do think.
And that's going to be a year long, even a couple year long experiment. Going to be who fits best with these best players. So.
Yeah, I also think when it comes to like the injuries, it's like, cool, you could play on 95%, but we're gonna hold you out a few more days or a few more weeks until you get to 100, just because, like, right? And it's more like natural tanking than like, hey, we're just gonna straight up lose and hold people out.
Yeah,
like that's we're gonna see that at the end of the year, the last
having,
15 games.
Gary Harris and Terrence Ross play every other game like we did.
Right. So, man, we got Minnesota on Wednesday on the 16th. We got at Chicago. We start a 3-game road trip after Minnesota on Wednesday, at Chicago on Friday, back to back with the Pacers. And then we actually play the Pacers again on Monday, in Indiana. So it's a back to back with the Pacers and then a team, not back to back, but a double header with the same team. And we'll probably record a podcast after that second Pacers game. So we got three games between now and our next show, because then the team gets a couple of days off before Philly on Friday. What's your prediction for the next couple of games?
Well, these are all winnable games. I don't know how many of them Magic will be favored in. Maybe favored against Indiana in one or both of those matchups, depending on who's healthy. But these are all winnable games. Minnesota has been struggling. Minnesota has lost some bottom feeders. Chicago has been up and down. They've had their moments. DeMar DeRozan at any minute can give you 35.
Totally.
Thank you very much.
Really good player.
Enjoy that. Eat that sandwich. But Zach LaVine is not playing every game.
He's banged up right now.
And he's not the same guy going to the basket after the knee surgeries. Maybe he will be, but he isn't right now. They got a second-year player at point guard. Pat Williams, is teetering on the concept of some people behind his back are whispering bust, as such a high draft pick, that kind of thing. And again, like Indiana has, the great Mathurin off the bench scoring buckets.
I'm excited against seeing Mathurin play and Paolo play, because those two are, right now, those two are the runners for Rookie of the Year. It's super early to kind of figure that out, but, obviously Paolo, in my opinion, has it, is winning, but Benedict Mathurin is
there, man. If he was starting, he might, be killing it. And then
his numbers are insane, dude. Insane.
Who's enjoyable to watch, that kind of thing.
Yes, sir.
Was it TJ McConnell? He's been a magic killer for years.
Yep.
Just like, why is this guy getting rebound after rebound and scoring? He can't even shoot. He's 5'10". What is going on? So those are games that can bite you, and that will raise the ire of Magic fans if and when we lose to those teams. Because it's one thing to lose to, Phoenix or Dallas or the Boston. But when we start losing to OKC and Houston like we did last week, or the Kings or Indiana, we're losing winnable games. Even the
Charlotte tonight
are like, what is going on?
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be this bad. I thought we were going to win this year. And they don't give a flying flip if it's because Markel's out or Gary Harris is out. They're just like our friend Pat, he's like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. We should be winning. We should lose these guys. I'm going to throw my freaking mouse through a screen. I can't take it. I don't want it.
I get it though. Like after a game like today, but when you see what the team can do, like when we see them versus the Suns, like they give up versus bad teams.
Yeah.
Like we've seen it a couple of times this year where they just they don't play to their performance. They play up and down. And who was I listening to? I think it was Philip from Orlando Magic Daily. He brought this up a few podcasts ago, where it's like veteran teams, as they get experience, they learn to bring it versus every team. Young teams have to learn how to do that, where they play up to the good teams and down to the bad teams. And the Magic, we just saw them do that. It's a perfect example. We did that. We sucked. We did not bring it tonight. So
20 turnovers to 12 tonight. It's just, it's not just one player. It's not just because of the point guard. It doesn't help. But you're kicking the ball all over the damn stands, bro.
It doesn't, but we know they can play better than that. We know they can play better than that, though, because we just saw it 2 games in a row versus the Mavericks and the Suns. So, yes, it doesn't help that we have our one true point guard and our, almost point guard and Cole out with injury, but we know that with them being out, we can play better, and we didn't play
And
better.
even if it's true,
So-
anybody want to hear that? At some point, you're like, "Hey, baby, we just need to win. I want to hear why
Yeah.
you put food on the table. I'm hungry. You know what I'm saying? Nobody want to hear that. It's like, oh man, I lost my job. The boss is, hey,
Excuses only get you so
we're
far.
hungry. And Magic fans are hungry. We don't want to hear why the food ain't here. We just want some steak. You know what I'm saying? So I get it.
Yes, sir. I think the Magic go 1-2. Hate to say it. I think we win one of the Pacer games.
2-2. 2-2. So we got Minnesota, Chicago, Indiana.
Oh yeah, sorry, I wasn't thinking about Minnesota. I totally spaced on that. Yeah, 2-2. I agree with that. I agree in that.
Game. So that's what
Yeah.
Texas is doing. 2-2
I-
is a great
listen-
week, though.
Listeners of the show, I misspoke. We have 4 games before the next episode, not 3. I misspoke there earlier. Yeah, 2-2. I agree with that. That'd be a good outcome. Let's win 50% of the games before the next podcast. So, well, all right, listeners, we appreciate you tuning in. As always, I'm Stephen Cameron, Malik Grady. We appreciate you and your support. Check out our Patreon page. We're going to be doing some cool shit. Like we did. We did a watch party tonight. We're going to be doing a giveaway soon. We hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Go Magic. Peace.